Hello everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar. I'm Ade and I'll be the host for today's session on PFAS treatment using Puraffinity's adsorbent media for municipal water. The presentation will be delivered by my colleague Jamie and will run for about 20 to 25 minutes. Please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom to submit your questions throughout the presentation and we'll go through them at the end. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube as well at the end of the webinar. So with that, I'll hand over to Jamie.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our second webinar. I'm Jamie Dawson, Sales and BD Manager for Europe, based in the UK. Today, I'm going to focus on our product's applicability to municipal PFAS treatment, with a focus on some of our recent pilots and what this looks like at scale. So, firstly, we'll cover off a quick intro to the product for those not familiar, how PFAS actually gets into our municipal drinking water and wastewater sites, and the resulting regulations that are being put in place to reduce those concentrations. I'll then go through two of our recent pilots, a drinking water and a wastewater site, and finally cover the commercial value of implementing our media and how you can work with us. So the product is a granular media, these white granules that you can see on the screen. The base substrate is activated alumina, which we then surface coat through our patented process to create a targeted material that's specific for capturing PFAS. So this specific media we've developed allows us to operate at very low empty bed contact times, as low as 30 seconds, which reduces the footprint that's required for PFAS treatment of a much more efficient system. The media itself is about 0.5 mil in diameter, density of 0.8 to 0.9, and over the course of this year, we've had or currently ongoing 8 municipal drinking water pilots or wastewater pilots across Europe and the US, and also covering quite a novel application on treating RO reject from a municipal site as well. Beyond municipal, we have several full-scale installations in remediation and landfill leachate sectors, and 30 plus pilots across all the different PFAS treatment markets. So how does the media compare to the sort of more commonly deployed adsorbents of activated carbon and resin? So GAC, of course, is typically a coal, coconut, or wood-based media, porous structure, hydrophobic interactions creating the PFAS capture, typically operated at 20 to 30 minutes empty bed contact time. And that's because it's a more generalist product. It's very good at capturing a lot of things. But when you're wanting something more specific, focus on PFAS, that's when people are starting to look for more targeted medias. We then have ion exchange resins formed of hydrophobic polymer beads that are charged either positively or negatively, and also work off hydrophobic interactions as well, with the resins typically in the 5 to 10 minute empty bed contact time. And then you have our media, which is the activated alumina substrate, the inorganic substrate, porous media in the center. We then have the polymer coating. This enables us to deploy at as low as 30 seconds. The surface coating on that image obviously just shows covering the outer of the media, but of course it goes into the porous structure within the media as well. So before covering off some of our pilots, how does PFAS actually get into these sites? So it can come from industrial sites that manufacture or use PFAS in their manufacturing that then discharge into sewers or directly into surface water. It can be from landfills, which receive a whole range of PFAS contaminated waste from industry and our own households, concentrating up in the collection ponds when it rains and again entering municipal waste sites. We have waste from our own households from the use of PFAS containing products and foods, again going to municipal wastewater treatment sites. And then you have firefighting foams deployed at large fires, training sites, airports, which get into our surface water and groundwater, and then end up back on the municipal drinking water side. So these municipal sites are really just receptors for PFAS. They're not really the cause of the pollution, but because these sites are obviously important for communities and bringing water back to us as consumers, regulations are now being put in place to reduce the emission levels, which is then resulting in quite large treatment trains being needed. And so what does that actually mean for us as humans? I just added this extract from a BBC News article from this week where the reporter went to get their blood tested for PFAS and found that they had 5 times the what's considered to be the sort of safe level of PFAS within their blood. And of course, that coming from all these different sources that you see on the screen. So that's why regulations and treatment are being put in place. Um, as a business, we're heavily involved, particularly in Europe and the US. So I'm going to focus on those regions for regulations. In Europe, we have the EU Drinking Water Directive, which looks at two different regulations or limits, total PFAS to less than zero point 0.5 micrograms per litre, or sum of 20 PFAS to less than zero point 0.1. Member states are supposed to comply from January next year, so it's getting pretty soon, and they may decide on either of those limits, depending on what the specific country decides. Beyond the EU drinking water levels, individual countries, some of them have also set their own more strict limits, particularly for the PFAS 4, which is PFOA, PFOS, PFNA, and PFHXS. So it means it's not really a one size fits all installation. It's very case by case basis on the PFAS levels that these sites might be receiving and the regulations that are being put in place either in the EU or individual state level. On the municipal wastewater site, there's no current limits. Monitoring is supposed to be implemented as of January this year. And I guess based on the results of that, they'll decide if and when and to what level they regulate the wastewater sites. Very similar picture in the US. At federal level, covering all the states, we have regulations being deployed for PFOA and PFOS. The timeline to implement solutions to achieve those have been extended to 2032, and they've also removed several PFAS from that regulation that was planned to be implemented by the EPA. But like Europe, individual states can enforce their own more strict regulations. So you can see some states have already done so or are already in the planning stage as well. So again, it's not going to be a case by case, or sorry, it will be a case by case assessment on what's actually needed for treatment at these sites. So now moving on to some data from our recent pilot studies. This was a field pilot conducted in Spain on contaminated groundwater feeding a municipal site. We partnered here with Adreco, an Italian supplier of treatment solutions who initially tested our product in their labs. So very good results and so convinced their client to run the field pilot, which is the data that you can see on the screen. So here we were looking at the EU regulation to get below 0.1 microgram per litre, and we also looked at the sum of PFAS 4. We achieved both those regulations with a fairly high starting concentration of 600, just under 600 ppt or nanograms per litre for the PFAS 20, achieving 92% total removal, well below the regulatory requirement, and also achieving the more stringent PFAS 4 regulations as well. So these results applicable to all of Europe and the US, in fact. We achieved total removal of all PFAS except PFBA and PFPEA, which are typically the most challenging PFAS to remove for all products. And now we are currently working on the full-scale installation with Adreco, looking at a site up to 120 meters cube per hour. We're estimating 1 meter cube of our media is required on an annual replacement basis, and that's operating at a 30-second contact time. And when you compare that to what a GAC equivalent system might be of about 40 meters cubed, you're looking at 40 times less volume for probably a longer lifespan as well. So quite a significant CapEx, OpEx, and sustainability saving available to this client. So very thankful to Adreco for the partnership on this and some other projects that we're now planning as well. And the full case study for this is available on our website, or get in contact with myself or one of my colleagues. We've also completed a wastewater pilot this year. This one, we partnered with Hydrotech, Veolia, and Biophos, which is the utility in Copenhagen in Denmark. We were placed as a polishing stream at the effluent of the site after Hydrotech solids filter, which they were also piloting at the same time. We provided the system and the installation and the setup. It was quite a unique setup because we had a small sort of gangway walkway area to install our equipment. But we put two vessels there in series, taking the water from the clean side of the Hydrotech unit, pumping it through our vessels, and Biophos then taking samples and analysing those. So we ran this for about 3 months. And like I mentioned, there's not any existing municipal wastewater regulations, but Biophos were looking at the PFAS levels in their wastewater with a view to understanding what treatment might need to be put in place in the future. And you can see here we achieved both of the Danish regulations, the sum of PFAS 4 and the sum of PFAS 24, or 160,000 bed volumes, again at a low empty bed contact time of just 30 seconds. Here, the concentrations are, considerably lower than the previous site, about 10 times lower. But on the wastewater side, you're dealing with some different water matrix, so a bit higher TOC levels. Also got some coagulants and then some other things like phosphorus and nitrogen and so on, which are typically in a bit higher concentration compared to groundwater. So we're very happy with the results on this side as well, showcasing that our product is highly suitable for both the drinking water and wastewater side as a polishing step to existing treatments, to add a nice small footprint to achieve compliance, or potentially for some installations even as the only treatment if they're just looking at PFAS. So what does that actually mean at scale? This is a hypothetical case versus activated carbon on a very large 40 million gallon day site. We've used 30 seconds contact time for our media, 20 minutes contact time for the carbon, so sort of standard contact times for each product. And in terms of volume of media, that results in about 60 meters cube for Puraffinity and over 2,000 meters cube of activated carbon at that contact time. So we're looking at 40 times less volume, which would be a very significant saving on footprint for sites of that size that might not even actually have available footprint to implement a solution at such scale. We then expect about 50% increase in lifespan versus activated carbon based on our installations to date, and based on some standardized costs. That works out about a 2 times cost reduction for Puraffinity for the media related element, and about a 10 times cost reduction on the CapEx side. So overall, significant CapEx and OpEx savings are available to these sites by using a product that can operate at such low contact times. This is, of course, a hypothetical case, so we're working with our existing clients that have been piloting and trialing our media on what this looks like at scale on business cases for the municipal settings. As I mentioned, there's sort of two main implementations we're likely to see for our product on these sites. Firstly, as a polishing step to existing GAC or resin treatments that aren't currently meeting the regulations that are being put in place, you can then add PureTech as a polishing step to help achieve compliance, therefore also hopefully expanding the lifespan of all the treatment meters that are in place on that location. And then on some other sites, it might be a standalone treatment where they're only looking at PFAS. So here we might just be placed behind a solids filter for glass, like a glass or sand filter, for example. Then we also have that novel case that I mentioned where clients are now also looking at treating the effluent from RO reject as well, which typically is just discharged into surface water or waste. So also looking to treat that as well because our product deals well with high salinity. So we can support across design, implementation, and operation from anywhere from lab trials to full-scale installations. To do this, we require some basic data, flow rate, PFAS species and concentrations, TOC, TSS, and any information on existing treatment. And we can pass it on to our engineers who put that through our in-house model. And based on that, we can provide a recommendation of the contact time, the expected lifespan, and the required design. And from that, we can offer you pilot full-scale offers and in terms of service offering, anything from bulk media all the way through to full treatment as a service. So we're quite flexible on how we partner with our clients depending on their needs. As I mentioned, we have pilot units available for rental as well. These two on the screen have actually gone out this month, both for industrial effluent treatment, hopefully removing a very small burden of PFAS that might have otherwise gone to municipal treatment sites. These are bespoke units designed for between 0.5 and 3 meters cubed per hour, comprised of vessels which you can operate in series, parallel, and bypass. We have some online monitoring, so we can provide you some operational recommendations throughout the pilot as well. And these are available on request on a monthly rental. So feel free to get in touch if you would like to pilot our product on municipal sites or any other PFAS contaminated sites. So finally, I shall leave you with the contact details of myself and my colleagues. So we have myself and Charlotte based in the UK. We're covering the European markets. We have Ryan Adams in the US, who's focused on point of entry, point of use. We have our new colleague, Ryan Denny's, also in the US, more so on municipal and industrial site. So feel free to get in contact with the relevant person for your requests. For beyond Europe and the US, again, if you just contact any of us or our general inquiry email, we can support you on that as well as we also have projects ongoing in Australia and Japan. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen. As Adi mentioned, this will be available for review again. But if you have any questions at the moment, more than happy to take those.
So we do have some questions. I will just read them out and then you can just answer. So the first one is, what is the effect of other contaminants like heavy metals on your media?
Heavy metals, we don't typically see any major impact on removal performance. We've had several pilots where um, there's high levels of heavy metal contamination in those, so saw excellent results. Typically, the main contaminants we recommend pre-treatment for would be TSS, as with most products, just to reduce the amount of solids going into our vessels, reduce the backwash frequency, and TOC to less than 10 ppm, ideally. But you saw there we've got some pilots again where we're up at 15 ppm, and we didn't see too much detrimental impact of those concentrations.
This one has come up quite a bit. How is the PFAS destroyed afterwards?
So currently our product it goes for incineration. So as with carbon or ion exchange resin sent for incineration. But the value that our product brings with that is you're incinerating significantly lower volumes. Um, Compared to carbon, we're estimating about 30 times less volume that requires to go for incineration. So quite a large sustainability saving there.
Is the media capable of withstanding high rate backwashes?
Yep, we can backwash the vessels well. We did that on numerous occasions at the Baufoss site to reorder the bed. So yeah, I have a procedure for that we can supply to our clients as well.
What does your manufacturing capacity look like currently and in the future?
Yeah, so we're currently manufacturing in the tons per month. Of course, 1 ton of our 1 meter cube of our product's about 40 meters cube equivalent of activated carbon. So a few tons goes a long way. But the site that we manufacture at is capable of significantly larger volumes as well. So we're scaling that up as our forecast and demand increases.
What pre-treatment would be required in the treatment train?
As I mentioned, really just TSS and TOC being the main considerations at the moment.
And how much material was used in the Biophos pilot trial?
Oh, six. It was in the low kilos. I think it was fewer than 10 kilos. If that particular person wants to get in contact, I can double check that for them.
What would you recommend for sites that need to meet strict short chain PFAS removal requirements?
Yeah, short chain's going to be a challenging one for all products. So at the moment, we're not currently looking at treating ultra short chains with the existing product. That's something we're working on with future products. We have a very strong product development team in-house that are working on future iterations based on what the markets require. But at this point in time, it really depends on the site. Here the client did have quite high levels of short chain PFAS with the PFBA and PFBS. And even with those, and even with getting the sort of 60-70% removal, we were still well below the treatment threshold. Where those thresholds are even lower, then it's probably going to be either extend the contact time of our product slightly, or work on a multi-treatment step where we're combining several technologies in series to comply with those regulations.
Are you continuing to create different adsorbent medias or focusing on the scale up of the current established one?
Yeah, we're focused on the scale up of the existing product. But like I mentioned in the background, we're looking at second and third generation products to meet the sort of future demand as well.
Do you have a drinking water certification?
Imminently, we expect that very soon with NSF, and then so that's the US focused certification, and once we've got that, we will then look at sort of European countries on a case by case basis.
Other than municipalities, what does a typical installation look like? Fixed beds, vessels, or retrofits?
Um, I wouldn't say there's sort of a typical installation. We've got a remediation site where we've been where we've replaced the existing activated carbon. We worked with the client there. We supplied pre-filled vessels. They built that onto a skid and put it on the back end of the existing treatment. We've got a landfill leachate site where again we supplied the vessels and the client put that into their installation. For some clients, we're supplying treatment skids. So our media incorporated into a skid with the valves, pressure gauges, pumps, etc., that they can put as a polishing step. So I think a lot of our shorter term installations are more on sites where they have existing treatment and they're looking to try and reduce costs or expand lifespan. And then we have quite a number of pilots for clients that are planning on what to do for meeting the regulations. So very varied.
Can this media be combined with other medias for a blended bed? If so, do you recommend?
It's not something that we've done yet. It's something that we're exploring. It's likely a plausible option. Again, if that person's interested in that, please get in touch. Or we've got some experts in that field in the business that we can look into that with you.
What are the lead times for the rental skids?
For those two rental skids are out till February, March at least next year. So probably looking at 6 weeks at the moment for the bespoke rental skids. If you're needing something a lot sooner, we can do something on the more basic side, supplying the vessels with some pipe work that you can deploy as a side stream as well. So if it's urgent, we can support that now as well.
And then we can end on this question. If my utility wants to get started, what are the first steps we should take and what would be the timeline of the process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you need to know what your PFAS levels are. You might not even need to treat if you're below the 100 nanogram per liter threshold. If you are, then we know we've got an excellent fit of our product in those sort of groundwater settings. So I would recommend skipping the lab testing phase because I think you could move straight to a pilot for sure and test that. So please just get in touch. We can share the data with us and we can provide you a recommendation for piloting or even full scale, to be honest, if it's something you're looking to do soon.
So those are all the questions. As Jamie said, if you have any others, please feel free to reach out to us on our info@Puraffinity account, or you can reach out to the sales team directly if you want to explore how our PFAS treatment solution can fit into your organization. As I mentioned before, this session will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel. And I just want to thank everyone again for joining, and hopefully you guys found the session insightful.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks, Eddie.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.